Welcome to Beyond the Brink, the show that explores global events that are pushing people to their limits and driving them to the brink of change. I'm your host, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Melissa. Today, we have an interesting guest lined up for you, none other than the inspirational Molly Elmore from the Clever Hummingbird channel. Now, before we kick things off, let's hear from you awesome viewers who are on Rumble and YouTube. If you can show us some love, give us a thumbs up or a rumble, we'd greatly appreciate it. And to all of our amazing radio listeners, don't worry, we've got you covered too. You can catch up on all of our previous episodes at vitabroadcastnetwork.com or on your favorite podcast platform. Just search us out at the handle at Vita Broadcast. So let's get ready to be inspired as we dive into the brilliant mind of a visionary disruptor, Molly Elmore. Molly's journey from humble beginnings to establishing herself as a thought leader in the XRP community is a testament to the unwavering spirit of human ambition. Now, beyond her entrepreneurial success, Molly's insightful perspective on the future of finance sets her apart from other mainstream ideas being presented to the world. It's no longer a secret that we're undergoing a financial transformation, and her insights are a guiding light shaping a more inclusive and innovative economic landscape. In this interview, we explore not only Molly's views on the new financial system and a belief in technology's role in reshaping finance for the better, but also her perspective on positive thinking and what that can do for your overall well-being. Molly is a beacon of optimism in these exciting but uncertain times. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a finance enthusiast, someone seeking inspiration, Molly Elmore's story and insights will leave a lasting mark on your journey. So get ready for a conversation that's an exploration into the exceptional mind of Molly Elmore.
Hello, Molly.
Hello,
Hello.
Melissa.
Hi, Molly. Nice to meet you. I'm Christy.
Me too. How you guys doing?
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks for joining us today.
Sure.
Welcome to Beyond the Brink.
We are beyond excited to have you here on our show today.
I'm not really sure what you want to talk about, but I'm excited to be here.
I definitely your latest video where you were talking about the future of the financial system and then your perspective on the positive thoughts and kind of looking into the things that you do want. That's what kind of sparked me to ask you to be on the show.
Okay.
I've followed your channel for quite some time now. You've come a long way to a 20-year career in digital advertising, I see. You've definitely been a pillar in the XRP community. And I've really enjoyed your educational videos regarding monetary history and finance. And then, as of late, you're kind of talking more into the positive reinforcement thinking and that sort of thing. So I thought you'd be a perfect person to have Beyond the Brink, because Beyond the Brink is not just all of the craziness that's happening, that's pushing people beyond the brink, which is what this show's about, but also what is beyond the brink, which is the light at the end of the tunnel and the future. So if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I was after my career in digital media measurement, I became a business coach. And I had this one thing that was really hard, which was to ask for money. Like, I was great at coaching. I was great at the marketing of it. I could set up all these sales calls and I'd get on the call and we get to the part where I have to ask for the money. And I was just like so uncomfortable with that. And that goes back to a lot of like old money stuff for me growing up. However, someone suggested to me, someone I don't even know, they were like, if you knew like where money really comes from, you would be able to let go of this emotional business that you have with money. Like, it's not real. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean money's not real? So they told me to read this book called The Creature from Jekyll Island, which I have on my shelf, and it's behind me in every video that I make. Because it was like the key thing for me, that book. I didn't even believe all of it at the time. Like my own cognitive dissonance sort of kicked in at that stage. But it led me on this journey to being like, if money's not real, like if they're just printing it out of nothing, like, is there a better option? Like, how can we move to something that is real? Because it was just fascinating to me. And that's where my crypto journey started. I was like, all right, if fiat is a mess, is crypto the answer? And I started to learn about Bitcoin and then Ethereum. And I went through this whole list of digital assets. And I was in a coaching program at the time about crypto, and they told me to skip XRP. They're like, we don't like that one, but do all the other ones on the list. And I did all of them, from Luna to Phantom, to Avalanche, like all of them. But I had this little OCD thing. I was like, if I'm going to I used to write reports about them. I was like, if I'm going to do all of them, I can't like just skip number 4, or whatever XRP was at the time. And so I went to look into that. And all this, and very, very quickly, I found 2 things that fascinated me. One was this ETHgate scandal, and 2 was this buyback thing. And I was like, this is juicy. None of the other blockchains have this kind of stuff. There's no scandals with Avalanche or Phantom. And it looked like there was really a lot more going on than meets the eye. And that kind of started this whole rabbit hole. And I met all these new people and learned about all this stuff. And that was sort of what kind of contributed to my awakening, that we are getting a new financial system. It is not the one you are reading about in the news. It is not going to be led by Bitcoin and Ethereum and this idea of like libertarian DeFi things where we're like going to have control of our own thing. Like that's not really what's been planned, is that we are going to move to the blockchain. There's going to be digital money that runs on the blockchain. And the media is intentionally being told to distract us and to have us focus on certain parts and not really think about XRP. I have a long, long career in marketing, so I can very easily tell professional world-class marketing from like grassroots, ground up, like what they call guerrilla marketing. The Bitcoin machine is a professional marketing machine. Like I have no doubt that it is not a grassroots libertarian movement. And I knew that very early on. It's what they call on point. Like everybody has the same message. They're all coordinated, just like we see with the media. And so I was like, how could, if there's no CEO of Bitcoin and there's no company behind Bitcoin, who's organizing all of this coordinated marketing? Like, and I don't really have the answers to those questions, but I don't think that there is this romantic story of the benevolent Satoshi Nakamoto who created this gift for humanity for us to be able to escape the fiat money system. It's just too perfect of a story, where real life stories are generally kind of messy. Yeah. You have like a flawed character in real life who has good intentions, but is also messed up. But Satoshi is just like too perfect, this like benevolent angel who appeared out of nowhere. And that's kind of when I got into the XRP sort of world, to the point where XRP people, I connect with them because there's some incredibly sharp analysts in there who are researchers who will dig deeply, and they connect the dots, and they will create stories that are not emotionally manipulative. And that's what we found out, is that the Department of Homeland Security knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is. They know that it's 4 people. They know that they are based in California. I actually have a theory who those 4 people are. But why would Congress, when talking about legislation for things like Bitcoin, why would that not be the first thing that they demand to know? Like, what if we find out that Bitcoin was created by like, a North Korean terrorist? They're going to let Vanguard or BlackRock have an ETF for Bitcoin without having the identity revealed. So the fact that they are not asking that question, to me, is so important, which is why this whole world of money is so fascinating, because there's a lot of deception going on. I think it's like a giant game.
You just touched on something that I'm right. So there's some of the thing I think I have a little bit different views on Bitcoin, but that's okay. But the Satoshi thing and them not asking who he is, you put everything aside. That is a very important question that you would think that these folks would ask, because clearly most of the people in Congress don't seem to know much about crypto. There's a few that do, but most of them don't. And you're right. That is the most logical first question to ask or try to get to the bottom of, right? If you're doing your due diligence as a senator or anybody on any of these committees, that would be one of the questions that would be one of my questions. It is one of my questions, right? So yeah, that was interesting that you said that, because and also when you say as far as the organized messaging, I noticed that too. I do think that the XRP army, there is some of that organized messaging, also marketing. Yeah. There's a bunch of folks parroting like the same messaging in that community as well. But I do see a difference really in the Bitcoin community compared to the XRP community in terms of the XRP community. They know that they're building this financial system, and they're trying to kind of cover it up and not have people interested in it because they don't want us to know about it, right? So they're kind of but they're digging it, all the connections between the companies and, who is associated with whom and how long these partnerships have been in place, and where you're not really seeing that with the Bitcoin community in terms of the financial sector. I guess I'm saying I've learned more about finance in the inner workings of the companies through the XRP community as far as the researchers than I have from the Bitcoin community or the Ethereum. I don't really follow the Ethereum community, so I don't really know. But
well, I think that's makes sense because XRP is aligned with the financial system. They want to do the payment processing for banks and so forth. So that makes most sense. Bitcoin is a whole different story. It's like about personal sovereignty, taking control of yourself. Don't put your Bitcoin into a bank. It's self-custody. But the whole thing about Bitcoin, I agree with all of what's been said here, is that it's a national security apparatus device. And the peer-to-peer digital cash system is just, a side effect of that.
A couple things. If a large organization like BlackRock or Vanguard were to put out like an ETF type thing for Bitcoin, they have a fiduciary responsibility
they do
know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. So the fact that is not coming up tells me that they already know. Those conversations have happened behind closed doors. So there's intentional deception in the part of like public disclosure.
You're absolutely right.
That is 100%. Ding, 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 ding.
I keep going back to national security. This, when you look at all of the components of Bitcoin and all of the other blockchains, which pretty much are copies of Bitcoin, they're all based on military applications that have been passed on to us, TCP/IP, GPS, SHA-256, all of that. Those are all military grade applications that are all whipped up and put into Bitcoin.
Bitcoin also is primarily going to be a store of value. It's not really created to be a transaction asset. Right. So my belief is that after the 2008-2009 financial crisis, a lot of people were very upset about the bailouts and the way the banks were given preferential treatment. I remember that very clearly. And the logical place for people, especially young techie libertarian men, would have been gold. But instead of migrating around gold, Bitcoin was put in front as this digital gold, this alternative to gold. Now, we know for the last 10 years that the central banks around the world have been stockpiling gold. The banking system is not anti-gold. They've been buying it in mass. But what have we not been doing as like consumers or retail investors? We were pushed into this Bitcoin idea and not really pushed into gold to the same degree. So I think Bitcoin was introduced to distract people from gold. To this is the sad sort of thing about this world that we live in, is the governments and the financial system, like, they don't want us to become wealthy.
Yeah.
Oh, why? No.
We live in a caste system.
Lord knows
couldn't
if
be
the good people
controlled if
had
we had-
money, what would we do with it? You know?
We live in a caste system like in India, which is just a
Right.
little bit more covert, and they don't really want us jumping up and down levels in the caste. This is why they don't like entrepreneurs and small business owners, because you actually can move up several levels fairly quickly if you are good at that thing. Where in the corporate world, it's a slow ride, right? And if you're an employee for the government, which is their dream, you are absolutely controlled and you don't really become wealthy working for the government. And so it's easy to keep you in your place.
Yeah. Wow. They
Yeah.
can use your asset, right, and control it and stop you from blossoming and really doing any kind of damage, so to speak, to their plans, basically, or whatever they've got going on. So they try to keep the smartest and brightest close to the vest so that they can control them.
I want to address one other thing that you brought up, which is that whether or not there is sort of a professional marketing engine within the XRP community as well.
Yeah.
I absolutely think there is. And it was very clear to me when I started to put out content around XRP and I started to talk about the buyback and the ETHgate scandal. It became very clear to me when I started to get attacked that I was not, that there's a split, there's two halves.
Yes.
And it was strange to me because I had made plenty of videos about like economic principles and no one really seemed to care. But the minute you get into the ETHgate space and you start to look at where that connects back to, the attacks became pretty personal. And
they were intense. They were intense for sure.
You were over you had the radar on the target.
And since I went through that experience, I can now very clearly see when others, a lot of whom are my friends now, have gotten similar sort of levels of attack. They really do not want that ETHgate scandal story, whatever, becoming mainstream news. And there's some very loud voices, very large accounts like Brad Kimes and Digital Perspectives and Digital Asset Investor who regularly speak to this. And you can see that the pushback that they even get from this. They've gotten threats. A lot of really bizarre things unfortunate things have happened to them as a result of being loud and taking a stand on this particular issue. And we don't ever see Congress talking about it because it all ties back to the banking cartel and the actions that they've taken.
And it goes to the due diligence of what their job is. And, that would be something that I would think that they should be on top of, and they say nothing, which is, again, something that leads me to, even more looking into XRP. That was another reason why I started really looking into it, because of the ETHgate scandal. But yeah, I watched them attack you for the buyback, and I thought to myself, what's the big deal here? My understanding of the reason that that was created is, just putting together different perspectives and opinions and speculations on the potential for what the price could be in the event that they did do something like they did with gold, where they forced people to sell their gold back to the government. And at least there would be, I don't want to say like ammunition, or there had already been something that's well thought out and backed for, if that situation came about, that, here is a bunch of different reasons why you're not going to sell, or you're not going to give us XYZ for this asset or whatever. Is that kind of what you thought when you agreed to go into it, is just as a I don't know, what was your reason for participating in that?
Sure. So Jimmy Valley discovered that there was nefarious activity going on the part of the SEC with the lawsuit from Ripple against Ripple.
Say
And
it not
as
so.
an attorney,
Really?
he noticed things that like I would never have noticed. I knew nothing about XRP in 2021 when this happened. So he noticed that there's something not right here. This is not proceeding like a normal lawsuit. He had worked with the SEC. They had been very easy to work with. And there was just something really off on this. So his conclusion was that there was this thing called regulatory capture, where they were trying to harm the value of the asset, which would cost retail investors money. So if I had a bunch of XRP that I bought at a certain amount and the price goes down, like, you've harmed my portfolio. And there was deception and dishonesty going on about what was this case really about. So he sort of concluded that they're trying to take this asset by forcing us to sell, by having this sort of dark cloud hang over it. So he made a counter move, like in chess, saying, all right, if you want to take it, fine, no problem, $35,000 a token. Basically calling them out on this. And it was written in legal jargon. It was a document that is intended to be discussed among lawyers, but of course everyone could read it. And a lot of people did not really understand what this document said. There was even some sort of like humor in there where he was kind of joking around with them that he knew that they sell favors and that there's corruption with the system. And he was just calling that out. But the machine that wanted to shut him down kind of started to accuse him of things, accuse him of being this grifter and this scammer. And he's like, wait a minute, all I did was write a document and try to call out the SEC for their nefarious behavior. And he, of anybody, Jimmy took the most heat for any of it by far. And a lot of character attacks, a lot of attacks on his integrity and his value system, which, you know, no one wants to have that. Right. And it was sort of this idea, like, if no one really cared and he wasn't right, then it would have just been ignored. But the fact that it got so much attention and heat, it's like, I think he's on to something. And we then, you know, the lawsuit has been resolved. The Hinman emails have come out. We have found out these sleuths in the crypto space have uncovered a lot of paper trail and this whole ETHgate scandal, that the banking cartel colluded to slow down Ripple so that they could create their own system in the global payments rail. And there were some entities in China that were involved, and there was this concerted action to use the SEC as a weapon, which is totally illegal and unethical in every way. Like, you're not supposed to do that. The government is supposed to be there to honor the values that the SEC was created on, which was not to protect the monopoly from losing their market share. And that is what the theory was early on, and it's become sort of validated with the evidence that we have. But we still don't see anyone held accountable. We don't see Congress talking about it. We don't even see the media talking about it. So this is where I feel like the whole kind of system that we refer to as the US government, I now just call them the organized crime syndicate, because that's what they are. They don't have honor and integrity. So I'm not going to respect anymore.
Absolutely.
Are you still working with Jimmy then? I thought I heard that you were working for Val Hill Capital so that's great. Good for you.
And we're not really worrying about much XRP stuff at this moment, because our work to create this valuation paper was published. Although that's actually totally not true. We approached some universities to sort of take that research to the next level. And actually my alma mater, Cornell, one of their grad schools has accepted us into one of their grad school programs. So they're going to have 6 different grad students take the models that we built and sort of elaborate on them, maybe build a new model, blow out the paper, and just kind of give us some academic perspective on that work. So the valuation models will continue to
terrific. Yep.
Or grow or whatever. I don't know what's going to happen with that. It sort of starts at the end of this month. But our other focus also is we do consulting for businesses, generally focused on the blockchain. And so we're kind of looking forward to what will the next financial system be like? What will this world be like after we transition? And how can we help businesses prepare for this migration to the blockchain?
If you don't mind, I'd kind of like to just take a little pivot here. Sure. And go to something that you had mentioned in your last video that resonated with me quite a bit, talking about our debt-based system. So in essence, you get a mortgage, we create more money, put it into the financial system. And I wholeheartedly agree with you that we don't want to be in debt. Otherwise, if you're in debt, you're in prison. Being debt free is pretty cool, very liberating. But one of the things that I didn't hear the discussion about, and I do believe that you believe in this as well, is that there are rules of the game. So in other words, we have this new financial system we're going into. The creators of the system are unknown to the rest of us. Just like the existing system we're coming out of, there are rules of the game. It was set up Jekyll Island. So our debt-based system, being that the rules were set by the owners of the game, kind of like football, baseball, that type of thing, on how to get out of debt. So if you do get into trouble, I think the message for our viewers to listen to is that there are tools out there for you to get out of trouble. And they're tools written, and they're in the laws. And if you have to use some of those tools, consider them a personal business decision. We have businesses all over the world who use bankruptcy laws. They go and they reorganize themselves, and nothing happens to them. They just go on business as usual. They don't blink an eye. They're not going home crying at night. But personally, if one of us as an individual need to use any of these tools to rectify a situation, and I'm not in favor of like, hey, I got a credit card, woohoo, let's go party it up and run it off and not pay for the things that we bought. But there are things that do happen in life, medical catastrophes, things that are just out of our control, that it would behoove us to know what those tools are so that we can use them to get out of this debt-based system so that we're not further indebted to it. So what's your thoughts on that?
This is where a lot of my recent work around beliefs is coming in. So we will often get into a situation where you're like, I'm so in debt, I believe the only option I have is to file bankruptcy.
Right.
It's a belief. That could be a limiting belief. You could have far more
right.
options.
Right.
And this it kind of comes back to this fact that the fiat money was created out of nothing.
That's right. Yeah.
There's this perception of debt. Like, but how can I be indebted to you when you gave me something you made up? Like,
right.
literally created it electronically on your computer one day. And it's the biggest rack. I mean, it's the most brilliant scheme in the history of the world. I'm going to make up money, give it to you, and then you've got to pay me interest when you pay me back. Like,
right.
It's brilliant. It's
at a set inflation rate.
Once you figure it out, you're like, are you freaking kidding me?
See, that's what goes back to my point, that if you do need to use a tool, and there are many besides bankruptcy, I'm just keying in on that one because from my background of being in the real estate industry, for 30 some odd years or so, I helped a lot of people through the foreclosure market and so forth. And what I saw, there were other ways than people just having to lose their home in foreclosure or file bankruptcy. But what I would walk into is a home where people are not opening their mail because they're so traumatized to even look at their own situation, because we've been conditioned like, it's bad, you've done this, and they just get paralyzed. They can't do anything. It's like, I come walking in and go, we need to open up your mail. Let's find out what's going on here and start finding out a way to help these people move forward. And sometimes they do need to file bankruptcy. Sometimes they need to push the foreclosure process to a point to where they get some resolution and maybe can short sale out their home or whatever the case is, get a modification before that last thing actually happens. The nuclear option, which is, in my view, never the best option. But there are other tools out there. And some people just think, hey, I'm not making my payment on my house, I'm going to lose it. They got the mindset. And then they're going off and feeling guilty and all of that about that. It's like, we can work around that. There's tools out there, but you got to know the rules of the game, because these rules were set up by the people that created this fantasy system we're in. They created the rules for themselves.
They created the rules, but there's no one that says we have to follow those rules.
That's correct.
Also,
The only thing though, Molly, is that the traumatizing thing that we do is that if we don't take certain steps of being in this game, we get maybe railroaded by the idea you're going to lose your credit. Your credit's going to be shot. You're just not going to be able to function. You're not going to be able to buy a car. You're not going to be able to do these things. It's like, that's just not true.
Those are beliefs.
Not at all. They are absolutely beliefs.
Why couldn't you choose to believe, like, you know what? This debt is invalid. I'm going to get this debt canceled.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to file bankruptcy. I'm not playing in your little game of like your rules where now there's consequences for me and I can't ever, participate. I can't open a business or do whatever the consequences are for filing bankruptcy. Why can't you just decide that the path forward for you is that this debt is unjust and it's going to be removed via some sort of debt forgiveness, debt jubilee type thing? Who's to say that that belief is any less correct than the belief that bankruptcy is your only option? This is where the power of the mind is so big. It's like you can have anything you want. And when you truly believe you can have anything you want, opportunities and options become presented to you, and a way out of something like a debt that looks like hopeless. Well, it's hopeless because you believe it's hopeless. What if you see that this is a part of a game? You're in a video game and you have this obstacle that's come around and you know that there's these magic tools that you could pull out of the sky. One of which could be, I'm going to have this debt just canceled. That's happening. I've heard many instances of it. It sometimes will require you to be creative,
right?
Look for an opportunity where you might have otherwise decided that there isn't one. Options will be presented when you look.
Yeah. And exactly. I think what you're saying is really what I'm saying too, is that there are other options. If we just sit there and we're dead in the water because we're so demoralized by our situation, well, we're not going to be able to get ourselves out of it. You have to have a belief that you're going to come out ahead and you're going to find the right tools that are going to work for you. Don't stop looking. Keep working, keep learning.
It also helps me tremendously to truly believe that there is a God or a higher power or some entity that's in my corner rooting for me and that will help me find those opportunities so I don't feel like I'm going through all of this alone in the dark.
How could all 100%. Of this that's been going on in our world, it's so beyond human, in my view, that we need to have a little divine intervention.
We are living in incredible times.
Yes.
And I
spiritual
am
warfare
thankful to be alive at this time.
It is an incredible time.
I mean, all of the exciting things that are coming. You have, the financial transformation that's coming, all of the new technology. Well, it's not really new, but it's going to be new to the public. All of those things can make a huge difference for the better in the future. And I do notice that now there's a lot of fear, fear, uncertainty, and doubt being spread around these technologies. In my opinion, some of it is intentional problem reaction solution so that they create a problem and they scare the public so that they could come in and regulate and have the public demand that they fix this problem or whatever, because many of these people haven't even looked into anything to do with this technology, whether it be the blockchain and cryptocurrencies and, all these other things. And so they paralyze people through fear, like they do with the credit system and everything else. They're doing the same thing. And, I think it's highly organized. You've got your players, laying in wait, or they'll have their audiences come along for the ride with them. And then all of a sudden they do like a 180. I'm seeing that all over the place. And But one thing that struck me about your last video is, the promise for the future and what you think that the future of the financial system is going to look like. And it sounds like you think it's going to be pretty exciting. So I kind of wanted your thoughts on that. Where do you think we're headed with all of this?
So if you go back to the Jekyll Island book, the current system that we have in place actually predates the Federal Reserve. It goes back to Europe hundreds of years ago.
Right.
And this sort of banking system that has been very manipulative and wants to keep people in debt. And the way they've structured things is through corporations. And the major corporation is the City of London, and every nation is like a subsidiary of the City of London, including the Corporation of the United States, which was founded in 1871. So we've been in this sort of bizarre thing for a long time, and none of us knew this. And then this stuff comes out that like we are collateral assets of the corporation, and people have been trading my birth certificate to take out loans and all these sort of nefarious things that when you find that out, you're like, this is so weird.
Yeah, you try to tell somebody, they're like, whatever. You're like, no, really?
Oh, I am so glad you're going here. I am complete alignment with you on that.
And there's even these other like loans that have been taken out, quadrillions of dollars as this sort of North American water and power alliance thing. And you kind of find out that they've been manipulating this system for their own profit. But we're finding out about it. Like, these sort of things in the shadows are being brought into the light. So I am very, very optimistic that this corporation has already been neutralized, removed from power, filed bankruptcy, and that the players who have been leading that will not be a part of our next financial system. And it's going to be almost unrecognizable for all of us. I like to use the analogy that we have lived in prison our whole life, and that we've played games in prison. I had a job where I made pictures and traded it for cigarettes to go buy M&Ms at the prison store. And we had like meatloaf on Tuesdays and tacos on Wednesdays. And that was like our whole worldview. And then one day someone comes along and is like, hey, you're getting out of prison. And we're like, cool. But we realize when you get out, you're like, I have no idea what to do. So when we are removed from this world of debt-based money, and these sort of many people are slaves to jobs and slaves to a mortgage and a rent payment. Imagine if that all went away and you could literally do whatever you wanted. Some people are just going to be stunned for a while, and they're like, I don't know what to do. I've worked so hard my whole life. If you take away that obligation, I don't know what I would do with myself. And it's going to be the most beautiful time in history, because people are going to find projects that align with their value system and find ways to serve their community and make beautiful art and hang out with their kids and do all these things that I think humans were designed to enjoy and feel purpose, and not be stuck in some crappy factory job that is backbreaking and exhausting. It's going to be pretty cool. And I'm a believer in NESARA, which is essentially the return of the money that has been stolen from us via taxation for centuries. And the kind of, what you call them, the banking cartel, the elites, whatever, they have been hoarding this gold from us. And that gold has been seized and will be used to back a new monetary system. And we will be given royalty payments, which is essentially paying back the money that was stolen. So it's not like people are just giving us money for no reason. It's like our ancestors and ourselves worked very hard to pay taxes into a corrupt, organized crime system that is being dismantled, and the money will be returned to us.
Woohoo, reparations.
Yeah. And that's funny because people often have like a negative viewpoint on that like it's kind of almost treated like welfare, like people, we're giving you something that you don't deserve. But if you have been stealing for me and my family for centuries, and that those assets are now available, like, of course they should be returned to their rightful owner.
Absolutely.
And reparations, I think, assumes is really tied to slavery in the Black community, that, a century ago, Blacks were enslaved, which was horrible. And the reparations are to make up for that harm. But the NESARA thing is bigger. It's like we've all been played, and we've all been slaves in some format.
It's not a racist thing.
And I'm not in any way minimizing how horrible it would have been to be a Black slave in the United States in the 1800s. But to think that we don't have slavery now is naive. There are
We're
people
all
being
slaves, actually. We just don't know it, or people don't realize it, you know. But when you start thinking about the creation of money and the debt-based system and just the whole manipulation that they do with the economy, all of it's bullshit. And once you realize it, you're like, wow, this is not cool. I need to stop worrying about these things and push my life into a different direction. And it does come into the mindset thing until all this comes into fruition, where we do have the forgiveness and all of that sort of thing. And it sounds like you've followed. I don't remember who the lady is that was interviewed recently talking about the gold that was given back or taken back for the United States.
Was that the lady that was on Trump's transition team? She's
yeah,
she works with the Department of Defense, right?
Yeah.
And she also did speak about corporation situation, and I think that there was an executive order signed in 2018 or something like that, where there was some movements to make that happen.
Yeah, I think Trump put a lot of measures in place, including rolling the Fed up into the Treasury. So that was no longer.
That was significant.
These are all little things that most people didn't pick up on. And I think that's another reason why you resonated with me, because there's certain people that I know that have been following. And I'm somebody that I've been following this stuff for years, and I've got a little piece here, a little piece here, a little piece here. And I'm like trying to put it all together because I know it's all together. It's all connected. And so it's a pleasure to meet other people that are seeing the same things I'm seeing, and that can actually explain it better than I can.
Well, the whole notion about the United States corporation, I'm in California, the state of California corporation. I mean, every city municipality is a municipal corporation or a charter corporation, a charter city. They all run under UCC codes. I mean, if you can't see this, I mean, sure, it took time before you become awake to this, but once you are awakened to it, it's like, wow, you can actually review the documents yourself. And if you start looking at how society runs, it runs all under a fee-based system. I mean, if you go to court, like a traffic court, for instance, you're going to be there to pay a fee. There's no jury trial. So there's a distinction on how our form of government runs, and it's quite an eye-opening experience. And I am very excited about the future to see all of this existing system get replaced with something else.
I really do like to look at this as a metaverse video game because it helps me to be objective.
That's
and
great.
This metaverse video game has an incredibly detailed backstory of these nefarious actors who worship Satan and do horrible things to children. And it's like the craziest story you could have ever come up with. And part of their religion is this concept called revelation of the method, where they are required for karmic reasons to share their plans. They just do it kind of subtly and covertly. So within the game, all the clues that you need have been present the whole time if you are just willing to look for them.
Right.
And that's what makes this kind of fun, and why I really do think it is a game, because it's like in a game where you click on a little button and like a magic scroll of like backstory, helpful information appears. These are present on the internet.
Right.
The World Economic Forum, I think, is a character in this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Revealing their plans for us all along. So if you're paying attention, there are no surprises, because they have been telling us what the plan is of that team in this game. But I'm a big believer of the hero's journey. I've studied it for marketing. I've taught it, and that we are the hero in this story. And of course, you've got to have a bad guy who comes along and presents us with obstacles so that we as humanity can rise up, overcome these obstacles, and emerge as better versions of ourselves, living the kind of great, happy, utopian life at the end. And that's why every Hollywood movie has prepared us for this journey. Like, we're going to win. I have no doubt. And it's going to be
Right.
glorious. And the bad guys are going to lose, just like we see in every cheesy formulaic Hollywood movie. So that's why I know that there's a lot of fear. And this morning I was even reading some stuff that people are nervous about a new pandemic coming out at the end next month. And I'm like, this part of the plot, like they're trying to suck you in. Like you don't have to fall for it.
It's even on schedule.
Yeah. To me, the best way to disarm fear is to laugh at it. And
Right.
the
Yeah.
more we make fun of these efforts, the less power they have over any of us.
You know, when they say you're watching a movie, like I used to say, I'm like, we are the freaking movie.
Right.
We're in the movie. And
Are-
we can choose the characters that we decide to play, right? You want to have an interview with Molly Elmore, you just reach out and say, "Can we interview you?" You know, I mean, that's how I've been navigating it. When we first started Beyond the Brink, I'm thinking, you know, how am I going to get people that I want to interview, you know, whatever. And we're just reaching out to
Just
people
ask.
and they're like, absolutely. And I'm like, this is super cool. You can do whatever you want to do. You just have to put your mind to it and you have to have that positive thinking, and all the good people, all the people that resonate with you, will come to you. Like we're just all working off of one another. And I just keep thinking, you know, the more that we spread the positivity and we give, you know, this is one thing I wanted to talk to you about, because you had said something about you used to be a hardcore truther, you know, trying to get people to wake up, right? I too, and I want to say this to my family. Anybody, if you actually do decide to watch one of my videos, I appreciate it. Everybody wakes up in their own time. Okay. I'm not trying to press my thoughts on anyone. I love everybody. And if I offended anybody by trying to quote unquote wake you up, I apologize. But there's some pretty heavy stuff going on. And if you search to look for it, you will find it. And so with that, I wanted to say to Molly, you know, she had said, she tried for quite some time to wake people up. And then you just realize, you know what, everyone has their timeline. And when they're ready to acknowledge certain things, then they will. But can you elaborate a little bit more on your pivot from that, and you know, your realization as you've evolved over time, where you're at now with that?
So I think that part of the awakening process is to take the red pill, and you are made aware of a lot of hard and difficult and upsetting truths about the financial system, about the organized crime, about the harm against children, like even other darker stuff. And once you know that stuff, though, you're given a choice. You can stay in that place and be reminded daily of all these very low vibration activities. And you're going to be in a place of anger, shock, outrage. Or what it took me a while to do is to move through that stage and say, okay, what is after that? I'm now focused on the future. What is this new world going to look like? It's going to be filled with beautiful things like love and compassion and empathy. Why don't I want to spend my time in those emotions? So I had to distance myself from even some good friends who were very active in the truther world, wanting to talk about these things and the outrage against the banking system, and they're evil and they do all these terrible things. And I'm like, that is true. But if I spend my time thinking about that and talking about that all the time, how am I going to be building my version of the future? Because I'm stuck in the past. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm being judgmental or critical of others who I think their role is to be truthers. I was just kind of tapped on the shoulder by my higher self saying, okay, your job now is to be on the other side of this and start to prepare what this world will look like, so that when everybody else comes along, you'd be like, hey, I'd be like, hey, thanks for coming. We've been building all these things and we're all ready for you now. We have a new money system. We have a new way of doing business. I have new marketing tools for you. So I'm kind of part of the group that I feel is being tasked with spending our time on the other side, which meant I had to stop consuming all the dark truther stuff. But I have some friends like that. I know that's their role. Like they're good at it. And they can stay there in that energy without it like bringing them down. For me, I need to be in a high vibration place with other very optimistic people so that I can be creating and building things for this new world.
I like it.
I love it.
I like that a lot.
That actually, that's why I think everybody is in different stages, right? And like you say, you can't do two things at once. I mean, where you can't focus your energy, really focus your energy into two things. And so when you are diving into these truths, and connecting dots, it is taxing, emotionally. Some of the things that I've seen, I wish that I wish I didn't. However, it even cemented it even more that I was on the right path. And so I too feel like, I still want to share things, share the truths, but how can we share them in a positive light? Like with what you're saying is what we're building for the future, where we're going. We do need to understand where we came from. And I think money is the keystone of it all. And so once you start learning about money, where money actually came from and what it actually is, that is like the biggest thing that people need to understand, really. And I mean, that's not so dark as some of this other stuff that we all here know, are aware of. But yeah, I'm thinking that everybody has a role in this, and I'm kind of, I want to share as much as I know, and I want to share it in an optimistic light. Christy has a wonderful idea that she's putting into place. You want to tell her about that, as far as your site where you're bringing people together that are, making a difference and doing things, and it's shining a light on things that people can do to make a difference, and then them putting a place for them to come together in order to do that.
Yeah. I want to share one comment that I think we'll all relate to. What we're doing right now, what we're talking about, is that in the fourth turning, I think our age group would reveal that we're in the prophet. We're the prophets. The next, and then there's the heroes, which are going to be the millennials. And isn't it interesting? I have a millennial daughter who we lock horns, don't see eye to eye on things, but then yet now we're having this awakening together, and we're uniting on ideas. And so I just think that this is amazing. So coming into this project that working on locally, part of my awakening process was, I'm not going to sit on my laurels. I'm going to get involved in my local government. I'm going to start learning what is going on. I want to know what's going on with the school boards, everything else. Joined whatever open office was not filled. I went and took a position, so I understand local government. Okay. And so from all of this came to the conclusion, and through just ended up getting a radio show, that type of thing, and then coming to YouTube and so forth, was having a collaboration site. I can't gather all this information on my own, and I don't want to. I mean, it would just break you down. But creating a website, a portal, if you will, where everybody is doing their own things. They're all part of this movement, this awakening movement, and they've plugged themselves into places where they think they need to be. And so I'm collating and gathering their information, their reporting. The only rule is that no opinion. This is not editorial. Just report the facts, put them out there so that people can verify on their own. And it goes to a website, and it's all local information. There was some national stuff in there, but this is what's going on locally from the people who are on the ground. Things that you're not going to hear from mainstream media, that, it's not the prescribed story that they want us to hear. But this is everything else that's going on. And so that's what we're doing.
In the mainstream media, I have no doubt that they're just the propaganda arm of.
Oh, they are. Yeah.
And
They're part of the, I think you've seen the public-private pyramid, the world hierarchy, where you have the policy makers and the distributors and the enforcers, the propagandists, and then us plebs, so here we are.
And I'm beyond the stage where I'm like mad about any of it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's a very cleverly designed game, and we're navigating through it. It would be boring if everything was easy and there was no obstacles. I have kind of a esoteric belief on like life, which is that we are souls who, for a variety of reasons, chose to incarnate as humans and live out this human experience. And many of us wanted to live like the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like we wanted to feel the depth of the emotions, including grief and shame and guilt and all these kind of low vibration things that we as humans were like, I would like to avoid those things at all costs. But if you had this opportunity to live this life, like to really live it fully, you got to go through the whole spectrum of it. You have to see problems and drama so that you can rise above it and emerge as an empathetic, compassionate version of you. If you've ever had the unfortunate experience to know someone that's very shallow, that's usually because they haven't really been through very much. Because when you go through very difficult situations, it kind of creates a depth of character. And these dark things that you've gone through often end up becoming blessings in terms of your ability to really empathize and have compassion for others. So I think we actually wanted these difficult things for us so that we could learn from them and become more emotionally intelligent.
That's beautiful. We've got about a minute left before we have to roll up the show. What final parting comments would you like to tell our viewers?
So we've lived in this world that has been controlled by fear for a very long time. There's fear around money, like I don't have enough, I'm not good enough. This idea of competition, that in order for me to succeed, somebody else has to lose. That's the entire fear-based system. You can make the choice to not participate in that. And the alternative is this sort of love-based system, which sounds kind of like sappy a little bit, but it's really just about treating everybody like you would treat the people in your life that you love and make decisions from that vibration. And imagine how amazing the world would be if everybody decided to do that and left the whole fear thing behind and move forward to this very positive thing. I think that's what's ahead for us. And we can all choose to start doing that now if we want to.
That's amazing.
I love
as we wrap up, can you tell our viewers how they can get a hold of you if they'd like to follow your work? What's your social coordinates?
Sure. So best thing to do is follow me on Twitter. It's at Molly Elmore 22. Be careful. There are quite a few fake accounts. They swap like an L for an I, so it looks like me, but it's not. I'm never going to DM you, sending you trying to sell some scammy trading course. I don't do trading. So just keep an eye out for that. I also have a YouTube channel, which is under Molly Elmore and Clever Hummingbird. And I have for my business stuff with Jimmy, we have a podcast called Escape Velocity on YouTube as well, but we haven't been doing a whole lot with that lately. But.
That's amazing.
Okay.
We want to thank you very much for being here today.
Yeah, it was great.
It has been a wonderful conversation.
We'd love to have you back sometime if you'd like to come back.
Sure, I would be happy to. Please reach out whenever you'd like to do that.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Molly. It was a pleasure meeting you and having some time with you today.
All right. Take care.
You too. Take care.
Good day.
Bye-bye.